Hope you found our, here we go, we're recorded as well. Hi everyone, welcome to our Apprenticeship and Employers 101. I hope you found our link okay, and we'll be having some folks joining us. We're going to explore today what is an apprenticeship and the role of an employer. So I know that many of you are coming from different facets of apprenticeship, curious, involved, wanting to know more, and that's great. We have some folks here who will be talking us through some aspects of apprenticeship. We have Natalie and Keith from Launch Apprenticeship Network, and they're going to do a little bit more introduction and information for us. We have Connie Campbell from Santa Clara County Office of Education, who will talk through some pieces of apprenticeship and employer partners, and Jess Lotnick from YMCA of the East Bay, who will be talking through various programs. There'll be some information shared with you all, and question and answer at the end, but please feel free to jump in that chat at any point in time, and I'll do my best to manage slides and check in with your questions or responses. And with no further ado, let's get going.
Can I also add that Tina
yeah,
an apprenticeship program at Skyline College, so she's also an expert, and I coordinate the ECE EDU Bay Region Pipeline project. So we've got lots of folks who can help you. Okay.
Yeah, Kathleen, we forgot to put your slide in the deck, but thank you. Everyone, just like Kathleen said, I'm Tina Watts from Skyline College. I'm a full-time instructional faculty, but I used to run the Child Development Center at the college. And this is really what actually inspired me to pursue learning more about apprenticeship. I'm the department coordinator. I'm also the early childhood apprenticeship coordinator. I have 35 plus years of direct service. And like Kathleen said, I've been running our early childhood apprenticeship program for the last 4 years with our CHI grant. And we are starting to we've learned a lot of things as we've built it and flown at the same time. And so if anything comes up that I can help you with, I'm happy to do so. So let's start with
one thing. Tracy just hopped off. Tracy manages the apprenticeship program. She's faculty and manages the apprenticeship program at City College of San Francisco. So actually we have a lot of expertise here on this call. Take it away, Tina. Sorry, I interrupted you.
You're fine. I love it. Get in there when you need to. Our first presenter of our panel today is YMCA of the East Bay. So Jess, let's have you get started.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jess Lotnicki. I'm the Director of Workforce Development here at the YMCA of the East Bay. We have a very large internal apprenticeship program. We have almost 300 current active apprentices. And I'll go into a little bit about how the program works and how we move people in and through the program. Oh, I was trying to move the slide on my own.
Yeah, of course. Just holler at me.
Okay. So just a little bit about how we approach our apprenticeship model. So we do a tailored approach to really ensure that all of the apprentices that are in our program are getting one-on-one individualized support. We also have a cohorted learning community. So when they enter the program, they're learning with their fellow students, and then they get placed in on-the-job training alongside their fellow students. We have a super diverse and inclusive workforce. We really think about a 2-generational approach. We want parents of kids in the programs to be able to become teachers if that's what they want to do. Lots of community partnerships, and coming back to that idea of individualized supports. So we designed this to be both career and degree driven. We want people to be able to move up in the field, get their teacher permits, get their site supervisor permits, and also get an AA and a BA along the way. So it's transferable internal to the field and external to the field if that is something that is of interest. Again, we really focus on the parents. We want kids in our programs to have really healthy families, and part of that is having a strong workforce associated with the family. And so a lot of our apprentices are parents, and it's really fun. And we wanted to do this to expand the workforce, to recruit, and I really want to emphasize the retention part. A lot of our employees who started as apprentices have been here for many, many years, and they stay for many, many years, partially because of the support and the community around the apprenticeship program. It happens at sites, it happens at centers, people take classes virtually, and we have sort of a secret sauce that we like to say, which will be shown on the next slide. So a big part of that training and support and individualization is we have mentor teachers. So within the apprenticeship model, In the sort of standard traditional apprenticeship model, there's the journey person. So for us, it's mentor teachers. These mentor teachers are certified by the CECMP, so the California Early Educator Mentorship Program. They are getting trained through us, and they are getting trained through CECMP on how to be strong mentors and guide their apprentices through the process. We also have dedicated success coordinators. So these are sort of like case managers, but we like to think of it as a success manager. It's not about the case management, it's about ensuring the apprentice's success. And they work with the apprentices from day one, from the application process all the way through. And again, that cohorted model. So they're learning hard skills, they're learning soft skills, they're getting trainings, and they're doing this all in a group. In fact, two of my staff went through the apprenticeship program as a BA in the same cohort and now are on staff here in the workforce development unit. So that cohorted model has really brought them together and brought them together in a way that supported each other in their careers beyond the classroom. Next slide. So our program structure is sort of tier, we don't call them tiers anymore, levels, but level 1 is the associate teacher. So they come in, they get 2 semesters worth of coursework at one of our local community colleges. Then they get transferred into on-the-job training. We do a 50-day, 150-hour in alignment with the permit sort of entry level, and then they continue on to complete 2,000 hours in the associate teacher level. Then they are allowed to move into the AA degree, the teacher level. And this allows them, and with the upcoming permit changes, we're kind of setting ourselves up for success with this, but this allows them to get their AA and their teacher permit, and they're allowed to start taking classes along the way, even if they haven't completed their 2,000 hours for the previous level. And then we have 2 degree programs at the BA level, and we help people get their site supervisor permit. And I can show you those colleges on the next slide. So here's who we work with. We at the East Bay Y have sites like from Hayward to Oakland to Emeryville, where I'm at, all the way up to Richmond, out in Antioch and Pittsburgh. We even have sites, although we don't have an apprenticeship program, in Winters and out near other places near Sacramento. So we are a very large YMCA. So we have a lot of community college partners and university partners. Berkeley City was the original, and our partnership with Berkeley City is also through First Five of Alameda County, and we work with CalWorks recipients specifically at BCC. We've got a Chabot cohort, we've got a Contra Costa College cohort. Los Medanos has our Spanish language only cohort. We've got Merit, and then our BA degree programs are offered through CSU East Bay and Advanced College.
Mhm.
And yeah, cool. And just really quick, I wanted to highlight one of our programs, which is our Youth Apprenticeship Program, which is in partnership with the Contra Costa County Office of Ed. So this is an interesting partnership where they do the recruitment, they handle the coursework, and we are the on-the-job training provider. So we have 25 high school students annually. We work out of Richmond and Pittsburgh high schools. The students are taking dual enrollment and articulated classes at either Contra Costa or Los Medanos from their sophomore, junior, and senior years. And during the summers, they're working with us in the classroom. So they're placed as volunteers. They are getting paid through the County Office of Ed. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to get folks into the field early on. And we actually just hired 3 of the former youth apprentices into full-time adult work. And they're going to move into the Tier 2 program, which is really exciting. So that's part of the job, is we want our work to lead into them getting employed full-time at the Y afterwards, if that's what they want to do. And the final slide. And just a quick sort of plug that the YMCA's Early Educator Apprenticeship Program is registered. And it's registered through ESEPS, which is Early Care and Education Pathways to Success. If you don't know of ESEPS, they're wonderful, they're amazing. We couldn't do this without them, and I'm happy to talk about them more if you have questions or put anybody in contact. So with that, I'll stop talking about the why and hand it off to our other panelists.
Sure. Just before we move on, I want to ask a question or clarify. So you are a single employer partner, right? Who is running an apprenticeship through your employment agency, right? So clarifying that for some new folks who might be coming into the scene, who are still trying to wrap their heads around what employer partners are, but we'll be talking about a couple of different models through our presentation today. But just to clarify, single employer apprenticeship run through that employer as the employer partner.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And I forgot to mention this earlier when we first started, but now that you're here, if you could drop your name in the chat and where you're from, that'll give us a nice list of folks to follow up with or check in on if you have other questions beyond these presentations today for apprenticeship. And then I will move on to our next set of panelists from Launch Apprenticeship Network. And Natalie, take it away. Oh, I think I said Bella earlier, sorry.
Thank you, Tina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Weaver. I'm the Director of Programs and Projects at the Launch Apprenticeship Network. I've been with Launch for almost 3 years now, since we joined the Foundation for California Community Colleges. But prior to that, I was at a community college called JP College in the Inland Empire, working on setting up registered pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs since about 2017. During that time, I also oversaw several CAI grants, California Apprenticeship Initiative grants, and helped to launch. We actually registered the first pre-apprenticeship program in the state of California, so helped to launch that and connect it to our apprenticeship programs. Before I move on, I do want to allow Keith to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Natalie. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Keith Gemmel. I'm the Senior Manager of Business Engagement for Launch Apprenticeship Network. I've been with Launch officially for about 5 weeks, so I'm still fairly new as a staff member. However, I have been Launch adjacent for the last several years. I have over 20 years of experience working in city governments. Most recently, I spent the last 5.5 years overseeing the Business and Workforce Development Division for the city of Moreno Valley. And in that role, I help to navigate all of our workforce development initiatives, including managing an America's Job Center that we owned and operated right there in the city. And then also co-founding with our community college, Moreno Valley College, the Inland Empire Apprenticeship Expo, which over the last, just had its 5th annual this year. Each year has served about 1,000 to 1,300 high school students from across the Inland Empire to come and learn about apprenticeship opportunities, both traditional and non-traditional. And then my Launch adjacency also is, I spent the last 3 years as a chair as on one of our employer and industry-led committees for IT and professional services, as our city was an employer participant in the apprenticeship program. So I'm happy to share with you some tips and tricks of what we do here through Launch to help support employers be more engaged in your process.
Thanks, Keith. Before we go to the next slide, I did, oops, sorry. No worries. I did want to just call out, so we're a collaborative impact partner of the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And one of our core structures is working with the community colleges to help implement registered apprenticeship programs. So looking at this slide here, we define ourselves as a program sponsor and intermediary. We did start working within the Inland Empire as a strong workforce program project with the Inland Empire Community Colleges, and then transitioned over to the foundation in 2023, which allowed us to start working with other colleges and schools across the state. So since then, we initially started with just a handful of occupations in different industry sectors. Now we administer over 40 occupations that are dual registered by both DAS and DOL. And what that results into, we actually have updated numbers. We have over 2,000 apprentices registered, over 200 employers, 20 plus community-based organizations work with workforce development boards and other intermediaries to support apprenticeship. So you can see in this on the right-hand side where we have the state of California, we have over 41 education partners that we work with, and how that works is we'll develop and register the apprenticeship programs, and then any education partner that signs an agreement with us is able to access any of our occupations at no cost to implement. Part of that is that we also help to administer the programs. We facilitate committee meetings, register apprentices, process completions and cancellations, so on and so forth. One of the other things that I'd like to add on this before we move on is that about 4 months or so ago, we did secure an agreement with the California Community College Chancellor's Office that allows us to build out regional hubs across the state. So right now we're currently in the process of onboarding regional apprenticeship managers that will be working more directly with the community colleges to help support your registered apprenticeship initiatives. One last thing I'd like to add hot off the press from Kathleen. So Sabrina, who is, I believe, an apprenticeship specialist, I can't remember her title, at the Chancellor's Office, announced that the California Apprenticeship Initiative Grant RFP is set to be released this Friday. So super exciting, something to consider if you're looking to launch an apprenticeship program. There's an RFP that comes out that helps with building out your apprenticeship program. I will say in that regard too, they are planning to do an implementation category and an expansion category. For those that were familiar with CAI in the past, they're not doing a planning grant. So it'll just be those 2 categories, but it'll allow you to apply even if you don't have an apprenticeship program. So super exciting. All right.
Great. Yeah.
Before we move to the next slide, I don't know if you're going to cover it, but for folks again who are new and exploring apprenticeship, could you briefly go over sponsor and intermediary, those roles in apprenticeship? Because I think those are tricky terms for new folks.
Yes, really great question, Tina. And we're actually working with the foundation to create some sort of guidance document on what an intermediary is, because it can represent a lot of different things. When we talk about a program sponsor, it is someone that has registered, or an organization that has registered an apprenticeship program, could be with either DAS or DOL. When we're talking about CAI or the Chancellor's Office funding, they typically are looking for state registered apprenticeship programs. When you're a program sponsor, you are also responsible for maintaining the quality of the apprenticeship program, registering the apprentices, ensuring that employers are providing on-the-job opportunities, as well as that the apprentices complete their education. An intermediary can provide support in a number of different ways. So we serve as both a sponsor and/or intermediary, but there are other apprenticeship intermediaries that may just provide technical assistance. So if you have guidance on how to set up your own apprenticeship program, there's intermediaries like that. There's others that can help connect you to funding opportunities. There's others that can help with employer engagement. So it's really pretty encompassing, just depending on what type of intermediary there is. So what we're hoping to do is provide some guidance on, what kind of questions you can ask if you do want to work with an intermediary to ensure that they're meeting the needs that you need if you're looking to set up an apprenticeship.
Thank you. That's so very helpful. I will move on for you.
Thanks, Tina. So I mentioned earlier that one of our core missions is to work with the community colleges. And I wanted to take just a couple minutes to describe why we focus on the community colleges as the core infrastructure for setting up apprenticeship programs in California. What we look for as we work with colleges is to set you up as to be an apprenticeship institute, because there are already a lot of services that exist within the community colleges that help support both candidates and employers to serve like your local region. So community colleges can provide career services, their support services to connect them to connect students to childcare, so on and so forth. It also serves as a bridge, so a nice place for those that are graduating from K-12. They have a next step to get connected directly to CTE pathways. So what we really see is utilizing those existing services that the community colleges have and connecting it to a pathway through apprenticeship to really elevate the local workforce and help employers that have a need to get connected into meeting open positions through their local community colleges. So that's where we really see a lot of benefit In addition, there's education code that allows colleges to waive tuition for apprentices, and that the enrollment fees through tuition is paid by the state. So it's really set up to be that core infrastructure to set up apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. And I'm going to hand it over to Keith to talk a little bit about the employer roles in apprenticeship.
Yeah, so as Natalie mentioned, colleges play a very vital role in our core mission, and one of those is helping to engage with the employers. A lot of times our LEAs are going to be more of the boots on the ground. You're going to know your region very well, and we are building out our network to have our own in-house regional managers to help assist you with that process and help build those bridges. But once you bring them to the table, on what we see here on the screen are some of the core roles that are essential for them to be successful. The top three are your required course requirements, so to speak. And one of that is once they get involved, they need to be involved in your evaluation process. So as YMCA is very familiar with, as they bring on apprentices, they're also evaluating them to the program standards. They're helping to do that regularly and report on those at least semi-annually, if not more often. And let them know to the LEA and the sponsor how that apprentice is doing, so that way eventually they can either complete them, or unfortunately they need to be canceled for just a temporary period or permanent. They can move forward with that. They're also going to be providing the on-the-job training skills. That's a vital part. I like to think of apprenticeship as a lecture lab type life, right? So the LEAs are going to be providing a lot of the lecture components, the teaching, but then the employers, they're giving that lab, the real life experience on the job. And so that's an essential part. The third part that is absolutely required is the pay. And so they're going to need to come in and make sure that they can fit within those pay range standards. So that way the apprentice can actually have a progression step of wages as they go through that process. What we would consider an extra credit role or something that would be taking them to the next level, highly recommended still, but not required to be a basic employer in the process, is to participate in committees. I'll talk about that a little bit later in some of the upcoming slides in more detail, but basically the essence of being a committee member is that they can actually vote to help drive and improve the program standards. They can also help to see what other programs their employers are participating in and see that. They should also participate in hiring the apprentices. Now, that's not required. Again, the LEA can recommend that, or the sponsor can recommend and say, hey, we have this apprentice who's qualified per this course requirement, and you say you just want to take them, they can just go step in. But a good employer that we've seen, they're a little bit more hands-on. They might do a recruitment process, an interview. They might find out that that person's not as well suited with that, or maybe they need to brush up on their interview skills. They also, likewise, in addition to the recruitment process, I would say there's also a lot of back and forth in regards to the mentorship. That can be also seen in the training component, but I do find that a lot of times we've even seen that with good employers, that they might mentor them a little bit in the interview process to give them some tips as well. And lastly, have them actively engaged in events. This could be a regional event that's promoting apprenticeships or recruitments, and those are really good to be involved in that. And so within these 6 core areas, these are really what makes a strong employer. And if you are an LEA or thinking about becoming a program sponsor, these would be the things that you would want to push them towards to be involved in that. Next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, the committees are a really vital part of the employer life cycle, but also our LEAs. So if you can see on here, this is a fun little diagram that we have, the circle diagram of how the early childhood education and upper education opportunities work currently. And what's really exciting about this diagram compared to our other committee cycles is that we actually have multiple program sponsors in here. Between Bridge and Launch, we partner together to build this out statewide to make sure that employers actually have more opportunities through more more occupational possibilities and connections to more LEAs. And so you can see here on the diagram, the sponsors are represented in blue. We also have on the left in the orange our employers who are participating in that. Off to the far lighter orange or peach color, those are some of our key intermediaries who are helping to recruit and bring on board more employers. And on the right is where you're going to see your LEAs and your workforce development boards and CBOs that are going to help support and bring them in. And so what Launch is doing is we're convening and administering these committees to help make sure that everybody's at the same table and speaking. But again, focusing on the employer engagement, getting employers involved in those 6 pillars that I just talked about will bring them to the table and have more engagement. They'll have more influence through these committees. And that's really important because they're going to help to set those regional standards. They're going to help design and make those systems work well for themselves. That's really the big selling point when we talk to them, but also to make it meaningful. That way there's occupational viability. That way the people going into these roles will continue to progress. We might be able to eventually add more occupational pathways that could be stackable. You know, they could be moving on, as YMCA talked about those experiences. Those only happen if we have real life experiences where we can see that those come into play and make that happen. So industry engagement is really, really essential when we look at connecting the employers with their LEAs all in one place, and the committees are a vital part for that. Next slide. And so here we can see where Launch and Bridge are coming together to partner. As I mentioned, this brings out amongst some of our other committees more occupational pathways. And so we're overseeing 2 program sponsorships here. We have 5 occupations from teacher aide, associate teacher, teacher, master teacher, and site supervisor. And within that, we have 6 community colleges that are primarily driving that educational piece as LEAs, from College of the Canyons, Corona Norco. I'm sorry, not all our community colleges. We have the Corona Norco Unified School District, Cabrillo College, Hartnell College, Norco College, and Riverside City College are the primary 6 there. And so we're really excited to build that out. And again, the LEAs and the employers have to mix together well to make that a strong engagement opportunity. So I'm going to turn it back over to Natalie to talk about items on the next slide and the rest of our presentation.
Yes, and I will go through relatively quickly, but one of the things that I did want to highlight is one of the specific programs and just how Launch works with our partners. So Bridge was actually a collaboration between Hartnell College, Cabrillo College, and San Jose City College to develop a program to be registered with DIS. They worked with CareerWise, which is also an apprenticeship intermediary, and then they submitted the program to DIS. Once it was registered, they asked us to administer the program, and that's where we then combined both the Bridge Apprenticeship Program and Launch's Education Apprenticeship Program that allowed us to go from 1 occupation, teacher aide, to 5 occupations, which was listed on that last slide, that include associate teacher, teacher, master teacher, and site supervisor. But with this teacher aide program, so it's 30 units plus 2 years. It's a competency-based program. Apprentices attend the classes while working part-time. And then they, again, just an overview, the mentor provides the supervision to ensure that they're gaining the skills, and then they get a certificate of completion from the state. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is what it looks like as a sample schedule. So an apprentice that's going through the program in year 1, they may be attending classes that's equivalent to 3 days per week while doing some on-the-job instruction, on-the-job training. That's roughly 12 to 16 hours per week. In the second year, there may be less instruction and more hours of on-the-job training as they gain relevant skills and as they get closer to the end of the program. This is not exactly how it has to go. This is just an example of what it might look like. So just wanting to also remind everyone, there's a lot of flexibility in how you set up the apprenticeship program, as long as the employers are reviewing the competencies and agree that they can provide the on-the-job instruction for that apprenticeship program. And then in addition, there may be external training that allows apprentices to get industry certifications or other college coursework, say to earn their associate's degree, or get other certifications that are relevant to their program. Next slide. So putting this all together and wrapping it up, we launched the Bridge Committee about last quarter, but between that and the Launch Apprenticeship Program, we registered 126 apprentices over those 5 different occupations with 15 active employers. So we're always looking to grow this. Tina had asked Jessica earlier about a single employer program. This one is actually a multi-employer program, meaning that we work with our community colleges to bring together multiple employers to help aggregate some of the information and provide opportunities for multiple employers across the state so that they can participate in this apprenticeship. Next slide. I think that's it for us. So we have Keith's and my contact information here. But yes, happy to answer any questions if we have time at the end. Thank you. I'll pass it back to you, Tina.
Thank you so much. And I have not checked in on the chat. I apologize for that. Kathleen, if you wouldn't mind checking that for me, that'd be great.
I'm checking the chat, keep going, and I'll summarize at the end.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we will move on to our next side, Santa Clara County Office of Education. Welcome.
Hello everyone. I'm Connie Campbell. I'm a coordinator for the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and we sponsor our own apprenticeship program. We have multiple, but I'm going to focus on the one that we are currently building, and all of the background information you just heard, a lot of it applies here. So I'm going to focus in on the details of this particular program. I also serve for the statewide Residency Technical Assistance Center. So our apprenticeship program takes a candidate from their AA degree all the way through to their special education teaching credential with residency involved. So that's what we're going to focus on. The next slide just shows who we worked with and our partners in our registered apprenticeship program. Because it's PK-12 teaching, we had to involve the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We're working right now with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. You've heard that a lot today. We are already registered with the Department of Labor, and we should be registered with the Department of Apprenticeship Standards by January. On the next slide, we'll give you like a what, how, why, where. So this particular apprenticeship program is built to support the career development pathway, specifically toward the education specialist teaching credential. And there are multiple entry points for that. The way we're doing that is that the apprentice would have employment as a paraeducator at a particular school district partnership while they earn their AA, their BA, and their teaching credential. The reason that we're engaging in this is because we want this career to be more accessible. We want to recruit and retain teachers who meet the needs of the communities they serve. So it's a very special partnership between employers and those candidates to recruit, because at the end, after residency, you are their next employee. So we want to be very careful with that recruitment on the front end. And are currently in this particular apprenticeship, our partners are Gavilan College and Morgan Hill Unified. We're seeking additional partners. We just want to get those standards approved, and all of our coursework is general enough that we would love to have more community college partners, and we're solidifying our BA partners right now. So how does apprenticeship and residency come together? The features of this particular program, like what you've heard already, is it is paid employment from day one. The mentors are employed at the same time, and you're working together with the mentor the entire time. These partnerships are very detailed and collaborative. Just like Keith was mentioning, you want that employer partner a part of every step of the way. So what that means is that the apprentice will be advised at each point in the process. They get gradual access to the teaching career, because as a paraeducator, you're seeing that lens, and then little by little, you become the student teacher in that very same classroom, and then you become the teacher of record in that school district. There's financial support from the AA degree all the way through teacher residency. This is a stackable apprenticeship, so you can enter and exit at your career destination. There's an opportunity for your career destination to be a special education teacher, but you'll see in another graphic here that if a person decides during their apprenticeship that they would like to remain the paraeducator as their career choice, then there's an off-ramp that will be supported the entire time. And then again, residency expects full-time employment after that residency experience. And residency is, it's student teaching, like when you're earning your credential. But residency is a 1 year long, first day of school to the last day of school, as the resident in that classroom, giving that apprentice the perfect experience to be the next teacher in that school district. The next slide just shows you another graphic of what the previous presenters shared. The intentional link between theory and practice. So the apprentice is employed all day long, and the related instruction that goes along with that, because you're a partner, both hands know what the other is doing. So all of these different components, from being a part of a cohort, all of your support is individualized and tailored. We know you're our apprentice. We walk you through all of those pieces. And then the next slide, we'll start to talk about these 3 entry points to becoming a special education teacher. You will see that you can, an apprentice may enter if they need the AA degree, if that's where we're starting. You would have that as an entry point, and the next 2 pieces are the same. As you'll be in your AA degree, you'll have employment as a paraeducator because we have that employer partner, and the mentorship and advising support will take you to the BA and then the special education credential. The second entry point is for those candidates who already have an AA degree, so that you can enter this apprenticeship getting your BA degree. Again, employment as a paraeducator, the mentorship and advising, and then you'd be ready for the next step as a special education credential resident. And then the last entry point on the next slide is perhaps the candidate already has the AA and the BA. And on the next slide, you would see that the apprentice is an apprentice at the point of earning their credential. So they're an apprentice resident all at the same time. Again, mentorship and employment support, and that results in the same result as if you started with an AA or a BA degree, and that's the special education preliminary teaching credential.
Mm-hmm.
So where these 2 pathways come together is they're at the point that the apprentice is a student teacher earning their teaching credential. So you can see on both, whether you're an apprentice or at the point where you become an apprentice resident, the on-the-job training is with wage progression. These are all factors that are necessary and required to be an apprentice. Mentorship, feedback on your progress. Coursework and employment expectations are always aligned. And that's a consistent employer. I think that's one of the important parts. That employer is consistent, and for every next step in the education is a warm handoff to the next educational institution. And then the residency is when that apprentice is in their teacher credential portion of their coursework. And that's like that year-long student teaching placement that I talked about. And the paraeducator and role can even remain at that point. So there's employment the entire time. So outside of those 600 hours that are required to earn your teaching credential, the paraeducator can be serving in a paid employment role.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a look at our program at this point. I had put here David Putney. He's the Director of Apprenticeship Pathways at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Again, we are wanting to work with multiple agencies, and if any of you are interested in that, we would love to get some contact from you.
Really, thank you, Connie. I'm going to go ahead and advance. Let's see, what do we have here? We have some information in terms of feedback, but I think we want to go to Q&A. We have a little bit of time here. I'm going to go ahead and stop share for a second so I can actually see everyone. Down there. And what are some questions that we have going on?
Can I announce that the workshop will be posted at the Teach for the Bay website in about 2 weeks, the recording, and I also put a link to the slides in the chat. And Tina, oh, you were frozen, Tina. But okay.
Sorry.
And then I will also put a link to our feedback form in the chat too. It's on the slide, but I'm not sure you can access it if we're not looking at it. So lots of questions about resources, about a guide that's being developed on apprenticeship, and then some very specific questions about let's see, intermediaries and yeah, all over the map with questions. So maybe
Why don't we do this? For folks who are brand new to apprenticeship and considering apprenticeship, why don't we start with some of those questions? Because I think these folks can be really helpful. So if you're brand new and thinking about starting an apprenticeship or collaborating with some of the entities that were talked about today, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get you some of your questions answered. Anyone? All right, so you're all veterans, you're mid apprenticeship progress, and you have some other questions that you have for our panelists. Any folks already in apprenticeship and having some questions? Nope, I'm not seeing any mid process folks. All right, random questions related to any of the information presented today. Questions that you want to have answered before the last 10 minutes of this presentation. Yes, Pedro.
Hi, everyone. My question is for Santa Clara Unified. I'm curious about their apprenticeship program. So I'm seeing that it's a it's not an early, but it's more special ed focus. And they did a call out for partners. So does that mean you're looking for school districts? Are you looking for additional higher ed partners? What kind of partners are you looking for?
Thanks, Pedro. We are open to partners in each of those, employer partners and community college partners, and for the bachelor's degree in particular. But your first question was, tell me before the partnership piece.
It was more of a clarification piece. So it was you put out that call, and I just need a little bit of clarification. And I did
Sure. Yes. So we want to get our standards approved and get our apprenticeship registered. So we have that in with our one employer partner and our community college partner. We have a bachelor's degree credential partners just now solidified, and we're going to put that through DAS as well. But what we need and want is to fill the needs in the community. So we want the employer partners to say, hey, we really need paraeducators, and we also need special education teachers. And then from there, we say, well, which colleges in proximity to your place of employment, and on both ends, on the AA degree side and the BA degree side. So yes, we are very interested in growing the opportunities for school districts to hire just exactly who they need in their communities.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hands up.
I think we have a couple more in the chat.
Okay. We can sift through.
we have a few questions around students under 18, and I did answer it, but at our 4 o'clock panel where we're talking about youth apprenticeship, we will have an example of some high schools that are doing apprenticeships in with their students, but typically they can't get the 2,000 hour requirement. They're either in pre-apprenticeship or they're joining an apprenticeship program at the community college because they're enrolled in dual enrollment classes. So they're kind of spanning both worlds, which more and more high schools are offering college courses at their sites. And if the college course connects with an apprenticeship program, they're getting a lead on those hours and a lead on those courses. But typically a high school student just doesn't have the time for the 2,000 hours. Even, I mean, you could probably span that summer, you know, those summer periods, but it's tough with all the external things they deal with. So it would have to flow into their community college. I only know of a few high school programs that are actually apprenticeships, not pre-apprenticeships, and we will have one on at 4 o'clock. And then there's one at Los Rios College, I think, out of Sacramento, that has one where they're actually paying high school students. So
Kathleen, we also have a high school apprenticeship with Corona Norco Unified School District.
oh yeah, that's who's coming at 4.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're coming.
That's a good one to attend then.
3 and 10 are coming at 4 because they're kind of unique.
Yeah.
They actually are paying their high school students, and in this sector, it's really hard for someone under 18. They don't count in the ratio. So we're going to hear from them how they do this. But it's, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, come to our thing, because very few people are doing that. So we'll have them at 4 o'clock.
Great.
Yeah, that's a great one to attend if you're interested in high school youth apprenticeship.
Any other questions in the chat? No, I don't see them. Okay, I'm going to utilize a little bit of our time for my own reasons. I have Connie here, and Connie, maybe that you won't be the person to answer this question, but I'm curious, as our apprenticeship here at Skyline College is looking to expand into the TK world, what work did you do with the CTC? Like, what would be some of the pieces that we would want to consider as we start having conversations with school districts as employer partners?
Yes, that's a great question. So this was their first experience looking at apprenticeship standards and linking what those standards are to the teaching standards. So you know how the K-12 world works with the teaching performance expectations. So we had to take that document and backwards map it to what would be expected of our apprentices who are paraeducators. So that was the lift, but I will tell you that once it's been lifted, it will just be available to other programs. And there's a lot of work being done in the back and on the sides around this very question. So I'm glad you asked it. Now there will be an authored teaching performance expectations that the CTC will just stamp their approval and they'll be ready. DAS is working very closely with them.
That is fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
At any point were those aligned with, so again, thinking about credential, but also merging the two worlds of permit and credential, was there any conversation about the permit teacher expectations and assessments as part of this conversation?
That I'm not aware that took place.
Okay, great. But at least if it's happening on the TPA end, we should be able to make it happen on the permit end as well. Great.
And I want
Thank
to add to this group that other states have been doing this. There are states that work from high school to community college to 4-year credential, and they have apprenticeship pathways that, you know, are comprehensive through the whole system. California is still, we're in an infancy, especially at the credential and 4-year college level. So community colleges have been doing this for a while. More and more high schools are doing this, but the 4-year and credential program, these are groundbreaking. So when you looked at Connie's slide, there aren't that many county offices of ed and 4-year colleges that are doing this. So this is groundbreaking work, and it's to be announced to grow. I have one more announcement, that there was an element that just passed around the Strong Workforce Program funding. And Strong Workforce Program funds can, in some circumstances, be used to fund students who are in apprenticeship programs. And that's been forbidden for a long time. That, you know, you can't fund the students' wages. That is being allowed. It's still up for development, but that opened the door for both internships and apprenticeships for student funding. So stay tuned. That's a brand new change, like it's only about a month old.
Yeah.
So
very relevant to those of you who are considering doing pre-apprenticeship or youth apprenticeship, as workforce-based learning opportunities are pretty varied in how that can be funded, with some just changes too. So that's exciting. There was one last question from Marianne about pathways for teacher credential programs that feed into IHEs. I'm not sure what you mean by that, meaning that 4-year universities are providing apprenticeships, or beyond that, Marianne, if you're still here.
Yeah, I am still here. I mean, we heard from a program where they're feeding into the County Office of Education, and I'm wondering if there are programs that are feeding into 4-year universities
for bachelor's, and then there are credential programs like Cal State East Bay or San Jose State, San Francisco State, like, you know, UCs, CSUs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe I could speak with that. So as a county office of education, we are the sponsor. So we're not the employer. We're just facilitating this pathway. So the answer is yes. Our plans are that the apprentice in the AA degree gets a warm handoff to a BA partner. We're looking specifically for BA partners, like I put in the chat, that are an ITEP program, which means the teaching credential requirements are inside the 120 units required of a bachelor's degree. That would be, you know, ideal. They're out there. But yes, and then we're also hopeful that the BA degree is the same institution as the credential, so that there are as few leapfrogs as necessary to get all the way through the program. What we want to make sure of is that it's efficient. This could be a 7-year experience, and we want to make sure that if that is the case, if you're starting clean from needing an AA degree, that that experience is as seamless and as supported as possible.
And I will say, for those of us that are running apprenticeship programs, any opportunity we get to talk to our 4-year institutions, certainly the ones that are instituting ITEP programs now, where it's bachelor's to credential, that we are emphasizing the fact that they need to be working and paid for their work during that time frame. It's almost impossible to take 4 years off or 2 years off to do your you know, bachelor's and credential and not work. So any way that we could be considering you know, apprenticeship through credential would be fantastic. We just need to get some of our higher institutes of higher ed at the 4-year to be thinking about non-traditional students and working students. Yeah, so those are definitely conversations I know we're having in the Bay Area amongst a variety of colleges and 4-year institutions. All right, that was great. Thank you so much for our panelists. Wonderful information and presentations. And for those of you that were here joining us, if you have additional questions or things pop up like they always do, you know where to reach us. Contact information, we can drop it. It's certainly on the Teach for the Bay flyer that went out. There is a evaluation form in the chat. Please click on that. For those of you, again, that are in apprenticeship and wanting to know more, our next session that I'm going to zoom over to literally is best practices in mentoring and on-the-job training. So if you're running an apprenticeship and you want to hear some ideas from folks that are actually in the work and evolving it as we speak, that would be a great session for you to join. But thank you, everyone, for your time today. Really appreciate your energy here, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.